Technology is the backbone of modern civilization. It shapes how we communicate, how we travel, and how we live. From the invention of the microchip to the creation of weapons of mass destruction, our progress has brought both extraordinary benefits and existential risks. There have been moments in history where a single glitch, a mistake, or a misjudgment could have wiped out humanity. Welcome to DZ Studio. Today we are diving into the times when technology nearly ended mankind, and just how frighteningly easy it was for everything to come one step away from catastrophe. The Cuban Missile Crisis. October 14, 1962, Major Richard Heiser, a U-2 spy plane pilot, captures photographic evidence of ballistic missiles under construction in Cuba. The next day, CIA analysts confirmed the unthinkable: nuclear missiles. October 16, President John F. Kennedy is briefed. The Cuban Missile Crisis has officially begun. By the time US intelligence uncovered the plan, the missiles were already in place, armed, ready. Military advisors urged immediate action, airstrikes, invasion. But Kennedy hesitated. One wrong move could ignite a nuclear war. October 27, an American U-2 spy plane is shot down over Baines, Cuba by a Soviet missile. Meanwhile, off the Cuban coast, a Soviet B-59 submarine is struck by a depth charge, a signal from the US Navy ship telling it to surface. But the sub is too deep to receive radio signals, cut off and isolated. The Soviet commander believes the war has already begun. He prepares to launch a nuclear torpedo. 3 officers must approve the launch unanimously. The captain and political officer voted in agreement, but Vasily Arkhipov, the second in command, refused. His refusal saved the world from nuclear war. Both sides had nuclear weapons. For days, the world stood on a knife's edge. One decision, one order, and billions could have died. The world we know today might not exist, but this wasn't the only time we came this close. There was another. The 1983 Soviet nuclear false alarm incident. September 26, 1983. Once again, the world stood on the edge of nuclear annihilation. But this time, it wasn't a missile, it was a glitch. In the early hours at Serpukhov 15, a secret early warning bunker, Lieutenant Colonel Stanislav Petrov was on duty. The Soviet Union's early warning system, OKO, reported that the United States had launched an intercontinental ballistic missile. Then 4 more followed, all headed towards the USSR. According to the Soviet protocol, this would require an immediate retaliatory strike. The fate of millions hung in the balance. But Petrov hesitated. He reasoned if the US were truly launching a first strike, there would be hundreds of missiles, not 5. Trusting his instinct over the computer's alert, he reported it as a false alarm, and he was right. Later investigations revealed the cause. Sunlight had reflected off clouds, and the satellite mistook it for missiles launches. Petrov's calm judgment, his refusal to blindly follow technology, prevented a potential nuclear war. This incident, like so many others, remind us how close we've come to disaster. Not through war, but through error. A technical flaw, a split-second decision, that's all it takes. But it's not just weaponized technology that threatens the world. Sometimes even unweaponized tech can be just as deadly. Yes, we're talking about the Chernobyl nuclear disaster. The Chernobyl nuclear disaster. April 26, 1986. At the Chernobyl nuclear power plant, the worst nuclear power accident in history occurred, measured in cost and in casualties. The plant had been built to power the Soviet electrical grid. At its peak, it housed 4 RBMK-1000 reactors, each capable of producing 1,000 megawatts of electricity. Together, they supplied nearly 10% of Ukraine's electricity. The accident happened during a late-night safety test on reactor 4. The goal: simulate a power outage and test if the reactor could be cooled under those conditions. But to run the test, the control rods were withdrawn. Safety systems were disabled. The reactor was operating at low power and became dangerously unstable. 1:23 a.m. A sudden power surge triggered massive explosions, blasting off the reactor's steel and concrete lid, exposing the nuclear core and igniting a fire in the graphite moderator. Radioactive material spewed into the atmosphere, carried across the Soviet Union and Europe by the wind. 2 plant workers died that night. 28 more, mostly first responders and firefighters, died within weeks from acute radiation syndrome. The nearby city of Pripyat, home to 49,000 people, was not evacuated immediately. It took 36 hours before the order was given. Eventually, around 350,000 people were evacuated and resettled. A concrete sarcophagus was built within weeks to cover the exposed reactor and limit further contamination. A 19-mile exclusion zone was established, a radioactive no man's land that remains mostly abandoned. It could stay that way for the next 20,000 years. Chernobyl stands as a grim reminder of how human error, flawed design, and systemic failures can converge into a catastrophe. Humanity already has one form of technology where a single push of a button could mean extinction. But what if there were no buttons to press? What if disaster came simply from the collapse of the technology itself? That was the fear during the Y2K panic. The Y2K panic. The Y2K panic, also known as the Millennium Bug or the Year 2000 problem, was a global fear in the late 1990s. The concern that a computer glitch could trigger massive system failures worldwide. As the calendar rolled over from the December 31st, 1999 to January 1st, 2000, what was the problem exactly? Many older computer programs stored years using only the last 2 digits, like 99 for the year 1999. So when the year changed to 00, computers could misread it as the year 1900 and not the year 2000. That tiny detail could disrupt calculations, data sorting, and system operations. And that meant real consequences for banks, utilities, transportation, government systems, and more. People feared total chaos. There were even wild predictions that planes would fall out of the sky, that nuclear weapons might accidentally launch, that the world would collapse at midnight. But that didn't happen. Thanks to a massive global effort, programmers and IT specialists around the world checked, fixed, and updated critical systems. When the clock struck midnight, most systems worked just fine. Y2K was a near miss, but it exposed a chilling truth: just how deeply we rely on technology. In a world where everything is online, a simple programming flaw had the potential to cause global chaos and even life-threatening disruptions. And that was just a date glitch. The next threat could be far more complex. 25 years later, our dependence on technology has reached an all-time high, and with that dependence comes both remarkable power and deep vulnerability. It's not just what technology can do, it's what happens when it suddenly stops working. Sometimes disaster doesn't need a trigger, just a failure. A few decades ago, the fear was nuclear weapons. Today we've added artificial intelligence to that list, and how AI could one day pose a threat to us all. Well, that's a story for another time. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to DZ Studio.